Today, I'd like to share an idea that's fundamentally changed the way that I think about relationships and really society itself. It can be summarized with three words: dependence, independence, and interdependence. I think that most people assume that these terms are just different ways of describing how connected people are to each other. And I don't believe that that's true. I believe that these are actually different stages of development. So let's start at the bottom. Now, when I use the word dependence, I'm not talking about a child depending on its parents or a person depending on welfare. I'm talking about something a little more subtle than that. I'm talking about a relationship where my peace depends upon controlling your behavior. Dependence says, I need you to behave the way that I think you should. My peace depends on your obedience. My well being depends upon controlling your choices. A society that depends on coercion and aggression in order to achieve its goals and maintain stability is a society in a state of dependence. This model of interaction says, if you don't conform to our preferences, we reserve the right to force you to do so through the institution of the government. So that's dependence. Now let's move up one step. So independence says something entirely different. It says, I release my claim to control your peaceful choices. And I claim the right for myself to make my own peaceful choices, as long as I'm not harming someone. You're responsible for your life, and I'm responsible for mine. Now, here's where I think some fascinating things happen. So, a lot of people stop right here. They assume that independence is the end goal. Independence is a great thing, but is it the end goal? Or you have people who assume that independence necessarily means isolation, that it means that we're all on our own and we've abandoned one another. However, independence doesn't have to have anything to do with isolation. It doesn't have to lead there. And I also don't think that independence is the end destination. I believe that independence is the bridge in our development. Because once we've learned to stand on our own, something beautiful becomes possible. Interdependence. This is where the money's at. Interdependence says, I'm okay, you're okay, let's build something together. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Having become independent, we freely choose to cooperate because doing so makes both of our lives richer. Now notice something remarkable. Reliance on each other returns. Just like in dependence, in interdependence, there's reliance upon one another. But this time, it's chosen. It's not imposed by one person on another person. And that shift changes everything. Because dependence is not connection. Dependence is necessity. Interdependence is connection because it's chosen. I think that we intuitively understand this in our personal lives. Imagine an unhealthy marriage. One partner says, I need you to make me okay. You have to behave the way that I want. You complete me. I mean, at first, that kind of sounds romantic, but it's actually dependence, right? Now think about a healthy marriage. Sounds completely different. I'm okay, you're okay, let's build a beautiful life together. The difference isn't love. The difference is freedom. One relationship depends on control and the other depends on choice. And now I'd like to show you something that I think is incredibly important. Imagine somebody living down here in dependence world. Their entire understanding of human relationships is built around control. Peace depends on making other people behave. Harmony depends on enforcing the right behavior. If we want stability, somebody's got to be in charge. And now imagine that that person down here looks up and they see this. What do they see? They see someone saying, I release my claim to your peaceful choices. And from where they're standing, that does not look like the beginning of something beautiful. It looks like the end of community. They're going to conclude that these people don't care about anyone. These people are selfish. They want it to be every man for himself. Why? Because from the perspective of dependence, there's only two possibilities. Either we control one another or we're disconnected. What they don't realize is that The threads of coercion do not hold us together, they hold us down. What they can't see is the third stage. They can't imagine that independent people might voluntarily choose to become deeply connected, that they might freely get together and build friendships, families, businesses, communities, movements, charities, not because anybody forces them to, but because they choose one another. Dependence mistakes independence for isolation because it can't yet imagine interdependence. And I think that's one of the great misunderstandings of the age that we live in. And here's why this matters. When I look at society, I see us trying hard to create a better world. We want more caring and compassion, prosperity, healthier communities, all those beautiful goals, all those beautiful things. But we pursue those goals through institutionalized coercion and aggressive political regimes. We believe that if people don't make the choices we think they should make, then the state has to force them to do so. This is simply dependence showing up on a societal scale. It's saying, I need you to act differently for me to be okay. It's saying, my peace depends on controlling your peaceful choices. And as I like to say, when we channel our caring through coercion, all we get is conflict. Interdependence sounds completely different. It says, I invite you to work with me. Let's cooperate. Let's build something together. Let's flourish together. One relationship is sustained through force. The other is sustained through consent. And that brings me back to the core idea that I keep thinking about. It's only independent people can become interdependent. Again, only independent people can become interdependent. Because if I cannot first release my claim to control your peaceful choices, then my cooperation with you isn't really cooperation. It's dependence wearing the mask of community. And to me, that changes a lot of things. I mean, it changes how I think about marriages, friendships, parenting, business, community. These dynamics are present in all of the ways that we interact with each other. Politics, civilization itself, like these dynamics are there. And what I've realized is that independence is not the opposite of connectedness. I believe that independence is the necessary foundation for genuine connectedness, because only free people can freely cooperate with one another. Only sovereign people can voluntarily unite. Only independent people can become genuinely interdependent. And that's, I believe, one of the highest forms of human development that can be achieved. Independence is not the opposite of connectedness, and it also isn't the end point of our growth. Independence is the bridge that makes genuine connectedness possible and takes us to an interdependent world.